Hi everyone, this is Koinzell here. So today I want to do you guys a artifact guide video on Baal. We will talk about 5 different artifact builds and we'll do the Baal math comparison as well. So you guys can see how each of the artifact build performs and fares against each other and you know what to go for. I'll share my conclusions at the end of the video as well. So first off, we'll look in-game at the 5 artifact builds. I will do an introduction on them and briefly describe them before we look at the math itself. Right. So first off, I need to say this. These characters are not actually using these artifacts per se. I'm only placing them as a placeholder right now for the purpose of the video recording. Okay. I'm not using this with my Kia. My Kia is level 40, I'm not even using him. Okay, so 4-piece emblem of Severed Fate. Energy recharge plus 20% on the 2-piece effect. 4-piece effect is increase elemental burst damage by 25% energy recharge, which means when you have 200% ER, you get 25% of it, which is 50% elemental damage boost. When you have 300% ER, you get 75% bonus damage to your elemental burst, and that's the maximum that you can get, by the way. So this particular artifact synergizes perfectly with Baal because both this artifact and Baal are Baal's kits are revolved around ER, getting as much ER as possible. That's number one. Number two, in the official post by MiHoYo, when they share about Baal's skills and talents, basically they already mentioned that the normal attacks, charging and plunging attacks during her burst stance mode, the Muso no Ishin, are all considered as elemental burst damage, which means that this 4-piece effect will buff that. So that's very, very significant. That's the reason why this set becomes so good with her. And I'm very sure everyone is very clear, everyone should be very, very certain that this is her BIS set. But it's still good to look at the other artifact builds so that we see how they fare against the 4-piece emblem, because not everyone will have farmed a good 4-piece emblem of Severed Fate by now, because after all it is the newest artifact set. It is introduced only in the 2.0 Inazuma update. Okay, so that is it for the emblem of Severed Fate. Let's talk about the next one, which is the 2-piece Shiminawa with 2-piece Gladiator. Now you might be wondering why I'm considering this artifact build. It's actually very, very simple, because Baal's kit already allows her to get a lot of damage bonuses. 200% ER, you get a 40 electro damage bonus. This is from her A4 effect. And you also get the 32% from R5 catch, 16% from R1 catch. So there's a lot of damage boost being involved here, which is the reason why it's not a bad idea to use a double attack buff artifact build like this. I'll show you guys the stats about it for this, don't worry. Okay, now next artifact build I'll talk about is the Cookie Cutter Electro character artifact build, which is 2-piece Gladiator with 2-piece Thundering Fury. So you got an 18% attack buff and a 15% electro damage boost. On my feature, this is her actual artifact. Okay, so because it's the Cookie Cutter build, right? So this is my actual artifacts. Next option you can have is Nobis Oblige, 2-piece, elemental burst damage plus 20%, as well as 2-piece Thundering Fury for the elemental damage, electro damage to be exact. So for 2-piece Nobis and 2-piece Thundering Fury, obviously it works for Baal because, like I just mentioned earlier, in the 4-piece emblem set, she does get her normal attacks, charge attacks, and plunging attack during her burst stance mode does benefit from the 2-piece Nobis effect. But this is not my actual gear or my Beto. Okay, just placeholder. Now the last artifact build I want to talk about is the 4-piece Thundersoother. 4-piece Thundersoother 2-piece effect is not that great. Electro resistance increased by 40%. 4-piece, on the other hand, you get increased damage against opponents affected by Electro by 35%. This is actually not too bad. I mean, there are conditions involved, and I'll talk about the conditions later in the math portion of this video. But this is my actual Keqing gear, because I'm always using her in an Electro charge team. So this 4-piece effect is more or less consistently there. Okay. and also because my Thundersoother set ruled very well. Right. So these are the 5 artifact builds that we are going to talk about in this video. Now let's go into the math itself. Let's look at the figures. Alright, so the ever familiar Excel with a bit of gameplay video. Okay, so for the purpose of the artifact comparison, these are the 5 artifacts. I'm just going to run through them quickly so that you guys know what the abbreviations are. I don't think they are quite difficult to guess, but you know, nevertheless. 4 Emblem Piece, 2 Gladiator, 2 Shimenawa, 4 Thundersoother, 2 Thundering Fury with 2 Glads, and 2 Thundering Fury with 2 Nobles. So this is Baal with the catch weapon R5. As you can see here, my standard representation for Baal math video so far. Initial hit and M41C. M41C is the 4 normal attacks with 1 charge attack. 50% CR, 140% CD, and level 9 talents versus enemies with 50% defense and 10% resist, which is the pretty standard setup against if you're level 90 against a level 90 character, it will be 52% defense, and most characters have 10% resist by default, except for the element that they are stronger against. Now, let's make more sense of the damage figures by looking at a full comparison. But actually before that, I should talk about the source of figures. So yeah, my bad. Let me just quickly run through the source of figures so that you guys know how it's being computed. If you're not interested, then you can skip ahead. I will always organize the video by chapters, as long as it makes sense. So yeah, you just skip to the next chapter. Otherwise, let me just quickly run through. Now, this is the Baal, the catch, which is with the emblem, 4-piece emblem. And you'll see that depending on the ER, I have already adjusted the damage bonuses. This is with 200% ER, so the emblem bonus is 50%. The CR and CD is 50 and 140 only because I'm trying to make it very realistic in terms of the artifact rolls. Assuming a guy who didn't have managed to farm much or are a bit unlucky. So 50 CR, 140% CD. Okay, now these are the figures that we will use for comparison. 19.5k, 44k, and 43k. The 19.5k is the elemental skill. You'll notice that this is something I newly added as opposed to the previous math video, because for the sale artifact comparison, I just wanted to make sure that this is included for comparison. But you'll see from the overall figures, her elemental skill is only about 10%. Or okay, it ranges from 10% to slightly higher of her entire damage kit. So 2-piece Gladiator with 2-piece Shimenawa, obviously we no longer have the emblem effect. Okay, no longer have the emblem damage bonus effect, but you'll notice that the attack is higher because I have included the attack in here. You see, 36%. This is the 36% bonus. Okay. Likewise, these 3 figures. Then we'll move on to the 4-piece Thundersoother, where we get a 35% damage boost from Thundersoother. Okay, and it has been accounted in the elemental skill as well. You'll see that it's much higher than the previous 2 configurations. 2-piece Thundering Fury with 2-piece Gladiator. So you have 2-piece Thundering here, which accounts for the elemental skill as well, not just the elemental burst. And also attack is slightly higher because it's 18% attack here, as opposed to the Thundersoother or the catch, or any other artifacts without the attack percent buff. Right. That's last artifact build that I want to talk about is the 2-piece Thundering Fury with 2-piece Nobles. So you get a 35% boost to your elemental burst here, and I have already accounted for the 2-piece Thundering Fury in here as well. So these are the source of the figures, in case you are wondering how they are tabulated. And this is how it looks overall. The yellow figure is the final figure, including both 7 seconds of burst damage and 7 seconds of elemental skill. You get about 150k. And by the way, this is pretty generous to the elemental skill because I included the first hit when you first cast the elemental skill. In some cases, it may not be there. Depends on how you play your Baal. But it is not difficult to set it up such that you always use your elemental skill before you use your burst. So 4-piece emblem, obviously the winner, we have 150k or 150.2k. 2-piece Gladiator with 2-piece Shiminawa, we have 147.6. 4-piece Thundersoother, we have 146 or 146.5. 2-piece, 2 Thundering, 2 Thundering Fury, 2 Gladiator, 2 Thundering Fury, 2 Nobles, and these are the figures. So you see that the percentage difference against the 4-piece emblem is not that big. 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Shiminawa, in fact, is very close. It's only 1.7% off. And then the difference increases as you go along the different type of artifact builds. So this right now is already sorted from best to worst. Okay? But I want to say something about Thundersoother. Because Thundersoother is right here in the center. I would say that it's the third best. But there are some important conditions, which is you are not fighting against slimes or elemental creatures in future like slimes, with the exception of Hydro Slimes. Because Hydro Slimes can still, you can still have the Electro applied to it because of the way Electro charge works. But against any other slimes, you will not get the 35% damage boost from Thundersoother because you won't be able to get the Electro on them. You'll be able to apply Electro on them and a reaction will happen, but the Electro will not stay there, so you will not get the Foul Face boost. Now, the second point is, if you have a second, I'm assuming that you have a second Electro character that's helping you apply Electro before Baal uses the Electro attacks, which means that the enemy is already affected by Electro. I did not, like, for example, remove the first hit, remove the 35% bonus from the first hit over here. Okay? Third point, you are using a mono Electro comp or Electro charge comp where there are no reactions that will remove your Electro element. Because obviously you need the Electro element there for the 4-piece Thundersoother to be consistent. Which is why on my Keqing, when I'm using 4-piece Thundersoother, Shizu will always be an Electro Charge comp. Which is fine because I like Electro Charge anyway. Right, now on to the next point. This is just to give a final overview on all the whole stats. I actually cover it briefly. So 50% CR, 140% CD, 200% ER total, and 25% attack from artifact subsets. It's just a rough estimate, so it's about 5 rows of attack from artifact subsets if I were to average stuff out. So this is the basis of our comparison, the stats. Now, Goblet damage versus attack percent. So I have for each of the artifact builds here, the percentage difference. You'll notice that the 2 Glass and 2 Shime. Positive figure here means that damage is better than attack. Negative figure means that attack is better than damage. So for the purpose of comparison, all of the goblets used here, all of the goblets used here when you see these figures are Electro Goblets. Since there are some artifact builds that gain a lot more from Electro Goblets, like the 2-piece Gladiator with 2-piece Shiminawa. So essentially the gist of it is very, very simple. If your artifact set bonus is giving you attack percent, you are better off using a damage goblet. Right? Because you have sufficient attack. It's only when your attack is not high enough, then attack percent goblet is better than damage percent goblet. I mean, there is no absolute threshold. Between the attack and damage percentage, it's like a weighing scale. You need to strive to balance it in a sense if you want to talk about optimizing your damage. Right. Now, Sense are all attack sense since it's 200% ER. But I know that there will be people who say that 200% ER may not be enough for her, seeing as her burst is actually 90 energy cost and not 80. So in the scenario where 250% ER is required for 100% burst uptime, I'll recommend to use a ER sense to make up for the difference, so that you still maintain the same type of expectations or demand on your artifact substats, which is the artifact reality. What I mean is actually the realistic artifacts kind of permutation of the stats. But if that's the case, right, what would the damage figures look like, and what's the DPS loss? Because you're switching from a attack sense to ER sense. So this is how it looks like on 250% ER. Everything else remains the same, it's just that it changes to 250% ER and sense is ER sense. So these are the figures. You'll see that not much different in terms of the ranking. The only difference is that 4-piece Thundersoother is slightly better than 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Shiminawa, but I did not sort it accordingly because there's a second comparison that I wanted to do here. That's fine. So basically, 140k, you lose about 10k, right? You lose about 10k, almost 10k damage when you go from 250% ER to 200% ER, and it's about 6.4% damage loss on the 4-piece emblem. But when you look at the rest of the artifacts, the rest of the artifact builds, you lose a lot more. It's ranging from 10.8 to 11.7%. So about 11 to 12% damage loss when you go from 250 to, sorry, when you go from 200 to 250 ER. And the difference between the artifact builds are larger now compared to Emblem, when compared to Emblem. Because here, when compared to Emblem, right, each of these compared to Emblem, this is their percentage difference. It was only 1.7 to 4%, but now we are talking about 7.4 to 9.2%. So why? Because 4-piece Emblem ER works for 4-piece Emblem, but it doesn't do anything for these 4 artifact builds. But if we do require 250% ER for 100% burst time, Emblem is an even more clear-cut winner. Yeah? So I just want to bring up one more point. This does not mean that Baal's damage is only capped at this figure or this figure, because I'm saying that this is a realistic artifact permutation. If you get perfect artifacts or almost close to perfect artifacts, you can have up to 36 to 46% improvement, depending on which artifact build is. Basically, the artifact set with attack bonuses will have the lowest improvement potential because of how they scale with CR and CD versus damage bonuses. So basically, the 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Yoimiya only has about a 36% improvement when your artifacts become better. Basically, it's going from 50/140 CD to 60/180 CD. That's how I calculated it in terms of the improvement. Emblem has the highest improvement potential since it gives the highest damage buff. So yeah, another reason why Emblem is good. So to conclude, right, for R5 to catch, Emblem is indeed the BIS. Emblem's difference against the other artifact builds is even bigger when your target ER goes higher. And this is clearly demonstrated when you compare between the 200% ER table versus 250% ER. So my personal recommendation, is that you can use the other 4 artifact builds as placeholder options until you get your 4-piece Emblem. And this table shows you which are the better placeholders. So when we say placeholders, it means out of the artifacts that you already have now, or artifacts that you have but just need to upgrade, if you can get 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Yoimiya, that would be good. Otherwise, you go down from left to right. This is the order in terms of best to worst. Okay, best to worst. Worst is here. So you can sort your artifacts around and use one of these 4 artifact builds if you do not already have a 4-piece Emblem. And while you use this, you can continue farming for 4-piece Emblem. That is what is meant here by placeholder artifact builds until you get 4-piece Emblem. Okay, now at 200% ER, the 4-piece Emblem, the 4-piece Thundersoother, and the 2 Thundering Fury with the 2 Nobles can do well with either attack or damage Goblet. But the 2 Gladiator, 2 Shime, and 2 Thundering Fury with 2 Gladiator will do better with attack damage Goblet. So essentially those artifact builds with attack bonus from the set bonus will do better with damage Goblet. So this is for the catch. It's important for me to say that this is for the catch, because when it comes to Engulfing, it's a bit different. I'll probably do the Engulfing as a separate video because the video is already quite long. It's 18 minutes already. So at 250% ER, all artifact builds do better with attack percent Goblet, except for the 2 Glads and 2 Shime, since we are using ER sense instead of attack percent sense in such a configuration. Okay, so this is already a very nice conclusion. So if you are choosing now, once you have selected which placeholder option to use based on what you have available, then you know whether you should use attack or damage Goblet. Okay, I hope that's helpful. I think it should be. Now the next one is, even with Sarah and Kazuha buffs, damage Goblet will still do better at 200% ER, while attack Goblet still does better at 250% ER, because Sarah and Kazuha, one gives attack, the other gives damage buff, so they kind of balance it, right? They balance the skill in terms of damage versus attack. However, if you use both Sarah and Bennett buffs together, or only one of them without Kazuha, then damage Goblet will do better across. Alright, so this has been a comprehensive, I hope, for artifact guide for the Baal with the catch weapon. So I hope this has been helpful to you guys, and if you like the content, remember like video and click subscribe for more, yeah? Alright, thanks everyone for watching, bye!